Hello, in this video, we're going to be looking at lesson 12.2 on translations. The essential question that we'll answer is how do you identify and draw translations? Let's start by defining a translation. A translation is a transformation that moves every point of a figure the same distance in the same direction. A translation slides the figure. All it does is it moves it to a new spot. You can see an example of a translation right here. Triangle ABC maps to triangle A prime, B prime, and C prime. The distance between A and A prime is the same as the distance from B to B prime and C to C prime. They're also all moving in the same direction. So that after we do the translation, the figure looks the same. It just slides to a new spot. Let's start by identifying some translations. This first one, you can see if we slide it over, it's not going to be flipped like that. This is not a translation. This is a reflection. It's mirrored like we saw in lesson 12.1. If we look at B, notice that the red triangle and the blue triangle, if you just move one, you can line it up perfectly with the other. This point here maps to this point there, and that would be the direction and length of the translation, and that's going to be the same for all the points. It's the same shape, it's the same size, it just moves to a new spot. So this would be a translation because it's a slide. And for the try now, you can try that on your own. You should have found that this is also a translation because it's a slide. You can move the red figure up and to the right, and it'll be on the blue figure. We're going to be working with translations in the coordinate plane. There's a rule for translation in the coordinate plane, and it looks like this. To translate a point in the coordinate plane, we use the rule xy maps to x plus a, y plus b, where the a value translates the point horizontally. When the x changes, it moves left or right. If a is positive, it'll move to the right. And if it's a negative number, like an x minus 4 or something, that would move it left. The b value translates the point vertically, since the y value goes up and down. A positive b value will move it up, and a negative b value will move it down. Let's practice applying a translation rule. Here, we're given the vertices of triangle CAT, and we want to list the coordinates of the image of triangle CAD after applying this rule. XY maps to x minus 3, y plus 2. Now notice I don't have graph paper here, but what I can do is I can just plug my points in. We'll start at C, which is 5, negative 4. And when we apply the rule for C prime, we start at that 5 and the negative 4. I'm leaving a gap there because I need to subtract 3 from 5 and add 2 to negative 4. And that's going to give us our new coordinates. So you do your subtraction there and you get 2, negative 2 for C prime. Let's do the same for the other points. A, 0, 3 maps to A prime. Again, I start at 0 and I subtract 3. And I start at 3 and I add 2. That makes A prime, negative 3, positive 5. For T, we start at negative 4, 1, and it maps to T prime. We need to take negative 4 and subtract 3, and 1, add 2, and that gives us the image T prime at negative 7, positive 3. So that is the coordinates of the image of triangle CAT. For this next question, we're given the vertices of triangle PHS, and we want to figure out which of the following rules translates the image of the triangle entirely into quadrant 4. I listed the quadrants over here. This is something you've learned in your algebra course. Quadrant 1 has a positive x value and a positive y value. Quadrant 2 has a negative x and a positive y value. Quadrant 3 has negative x and negative y values. And quadrant 4 has positive x, negative y. So we want to end up getting into quadrant 4. So we need to figure out which of those rules in the multiple choice options gets all the x's to be positive and all the y's to be negative. What I like to do is I like to look at the one that's the furthest away from being positive. So the one that's the furthest away from being positive is -6 right here. Well, -6, if we add 7, that's 1, that's positive. So it could be A. If I do -6 plus 6, that's 0. And you're not allowed to have zeros. That's not in a quadrant. That's important to note. The zeros are like the boundaries between the quadrants. If we take -6 plus 8, that is +2. And -6 plus 7 is +1. So we've only eliminated B, but now let's go and look at the y transformations. We need our y value to be negative. Currently, the y's are -5, +1, and 3. The one that's the furthest away from being a negative number is 3. If we do 3 minus 1, that's 2. That's not negative. So it can't be A. If we take 3 minus 4, that's a -1. But the last one, 3 minus 3, would be 0. So D doesn't work. The one that maps all of the points into the quadrant 4 is going to be letter C. Now let's try some translations in the coordinate plane. Here you can use the rule, or you can just use the left, right, up, and downs. Here, I'm going to begin by listing the coordinates of the pre-image. Make sure you get these right. If you mix up the signs, it's going to mess everything up. So for F, I can see that the x is a +2 and the y is a -4. For G, we have x at +3, y at -3. H, we move over to the negative x's. It's 2 left, so that's -2 on the x, -2 on the y. And I is at -3, -4. We can use this rule now to translate it. The +2 is going to bring all the points right 2, and the y +3 will move them up 3. So one way I could get my points is just by counting. Like if we start at F and we go right 1, 2, then up 1, 2, 3, we land right there. G, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, G prime. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So there's I prime. And 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. There is H prime. And what you'll notice is it's still the same shape and the same size. We just moved it to a new location. If the size looks different or the shape looks different, you made a mistake. Now I can also get these values too if I just add 2 to each of these and add 3 to the y. Like you'll see that F, I expect it to land at 4, -1. Well, 2 plus 2 is 4. -4 plus 3 is -1. G prime, we can see, is at 5, 0. H prime is at 0, 1. And I prime is at -1, -1. Let's try another one here. This time we have xy maps to x, y minus 3. This time there's no horizontal translation. The y minus 3 is just going to take all the points and move them down 3. I'm going to start by listing the coordinates of the pre-image. Notice that B is on the left of the y-axis, so I'm at -2 right there for x, +1 for y. C, we're at 2, 4, and D, 3, 0. Then, applying that rule, our x's are going to stay the same, and the y is going to go down by 3. That brings us to -2, -2, 2, 1, and 3, negative 3. And you can see too, if we were to just count the points, 1, 2, 3, there's my B, 1, 2, 3, C, and 1, 2, 3, D. Let's form our triangle, and then don't forget to label the coordinates of your image with the same letters, but the prime symbols. And there we go, that's a translation. Here's a try now for you to try on your own. You're going to translate the figure and list the coordinates of the image. Please pause your video now. And here's your solution. Each point moves left 4 and up 5, and you'll end up with those coordinates for your image. For our final example, we're going to write a translation rule. And to do this, we kind of have to work backwards. We just have to make sure that we always move from the pre-image to the image. The pre-image is the one with the regular capital letters, and the image has the primes. So I need to go from like P to P prime. You can choose whatever point you want as long as you pick a point and its image. So I'm going to start at P and I'm going to move to P prime. Notice that we have to go right 4. And then we have to go up 3. So a right 4 would be xy maps to x plus 4. That accounts for the right 4. And then y goes up by 3. That's a y plus 3. And there's our rule. In the try now, let's again pick a point in the pre-image. That's R, S, or T. It really doesn't matter which one you pick, just pick one of them. I'm going to pick R. So let's go R to R prime. This time you can see we have to go left 2. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down. Down 6. That would be xy maps to x minus 2 brings us the left 2, and then y minus 6 brings us down 6. And this concludes lesson 12.2. You're now ready to practice some translations on your own. Thanks for watching. Bye.